Hi everyone, Vicky from Mud and Maps, and I just want to explain the process for Ilford County with booking on the expeditions. So most of you probably know me because we've been doing the expeditions for 10 years at Ilford County, but if not, obviously I'm Vicky, I'm the director of Mud and Maps, and I facilitate and run all of the expeditions with Ilford County. The school have been in contact with us. Normally we would have young people up to about 60. We've been informed that they've hit 130. So what we've had to do is we've had to put additional expeditions on to what was planned with the school last year. So I just want to go through that process. So the school are going to be in charge of the volunteering, physical and skills section. Mud and Maps is going to be in charge of the expedition section, and we're not allowed to talk about the volunteering, physical and skill because it's not part of our licence. So you're going to be dealing with just us for the expedition section. Let's talk about the actual expedition section, because if you haven't done this before, it can be, there's a lot of elements to it. So there's actually 3. So they're going to be doing some online training, a practice weekend and a qualifying weekend. There isn't any camping at the minute because everyone's obviously working towards the COVID edition of DFE. So what's going to happen is the boys at their own level are going to get given a link. They're going to go through what to wear, what to take, what to eat, countryside code, health and safety, and watch a load of first aid videos. Then they're going to come on a training weekend where they're going to learn all the practical training, and we are going to go through how to use the cookers, how to read the maps, how to use a compass, what to do if you get lost, what happens if something goes wrong, and they'll be with a leader that whole weekend. On the Saturday, they'll be with the staff all day. On the Sunday, they're going to get into little teams and they're going to practice their map and compass work, and the leaders will meet them at checkpoints round a little route that the boys have planned on the Saturday. And that's the practical training framework. Now, to pass it, it's not exam, it's a checklist. Have they learnt this? Have they learnt that? Have they been paying attention, etc., etc.? If they complete that practice training framework, they can then go on to the qualifying expedition where they're assessed by a DFE assessor, and it's a completely different weekend. On the qualifying weekends, they have a DV assessor. The boys have to be in teams of 4 to 7 for the qualifying. They don't have to for the training before. And they have to have a team name, which goes on their DV certificate. And the boys are going to navigate a way around a route, cook a 3-course evening meal at the campsite, navigate the way back. Obviously, you'll collect them, take them home, bring them back the next day, and then obviously they'll repeat a route. They have to do 1 hot 3-course meal on the weekend, and predominantly it's on the Saturday, but we'll let the boys know which day their meal's going to be that they're going to be planning to pass all the elements. And the whole point of the expedition section is to show teamwork, communication skills, you know, and learn new skills. Map work and compass work is an amazing skill to have. And obviously the cooking element that sometimes the boys can find a bit challenging, especially 3-course meal that we're expecting them to do on this little dinky cooker. But for parents, you don't need to get involved in that. All you need to do is just support them to make sure they've got everything on the kit list. It's down to the boys. They pick their team. We don't pick it on the assessment. They've got to be in a team of 4 to 7 and it's down to them. But what I will say, and what you need to be prepared, is that the groups pass or don't pass in their teams. So if one boy drops litter on the floor and the others don't say, look, pick it up, and it gets noticed, the whole team don't pass. And that's just the way it is, because it's about teamwork. You pass or fail as a team. If for some reason the group don't meet the criteria the first time and they have to redo the qualifying expedition, if it's because they haven't got the navigation, but they've been giving it their all, they've been trying, but they haven't quite got there, we will not charge you for a second qualifying expedition. If the boys, like last year, I had to send 2 teams home from Ilford County for mucking around. So if they're mucking around with a fire, if they're mucking around with water, if I can't trust them on the roads and they're not being safe, if they're not following the leader's instructions, any of that, or if they're on their phone because it's a mobile-free, technology-free weekend, if they've sabotaged their expedition and the assessor can't pass them because they're not, you know, because of their behaviour, they would be expected to pay for a second qualifying expedition, because that's completely different. So now I'm going to talk to you about your expedition, how you book on it. So you're going to be booking on 2. We don't ask for all the money up front. So you book on your practice trip and you book on your qualifying trip. Now, because normally the school has 60, they've already reached 130. We've put on multiple dates, 3 practices, 3 assessment dates. But what I need to say is when any of those dates, when they get full up and they reach their capacity, that is it. Every year I get parents phoning up and saying, I haven't booked yet and all my son's friends are on it and there's no space left. Can you add him on? And unfortunately, the answer is no. For health and safety, for our COVID restrictions, for the campsite bookings that we've booked, when we reach that maximum amount of numbers, that is it. When you book on Eventbrite, say you go on there and you put the June trip and you click to buy tickets and you enter in all your details, at the top it says the amount of tickets left on that trip. So you will know before you even purchase that ticket how many are left, so you can make sure that your team of 4 to 7 have booked on the same trip. We always get individuals as well where they just book on any trip and they need to find a team. So we don't put people into teams. We expect them to be able to get themselves into teams 4 to 7. But if there's individual people that have got no one to be with, obviously we'll go around and ask if anyone can accommodate that young person, because at the end of the day, DfE is all about teamwork. So you book your practice trip on Eventbrite and you get sent a ticket, and you book your assessment and you get a ticket. It sends you a paper ticket to print off. You do not need to do that because your ticket, your entry form is your consent form. So when you've booked on that practice trip, after I normally give it 4 weeks of booking on, at the end of those 4 weeks, everybody that's booked on will get sent an email by me. It'll have the expedition paperwork and a consent form. All you need to do then is fill in the consent form and hand it back into the box at the school where all the consent forms are going to go, and they're going to collect them in for me. Then I'm going to go in, collect all the consent forms for that trip. You won't get a consent form if you haven't paid for the trip. And the consent form, I can count for the whole of 2022. So you only need to do one, obviously to save paper, but obviously it will count for the practice and the qualifying trip. And all I need parents to do is, if for some reason there's some kind of medical change, please let us know and obviously submit another consent form before the qualifying, because if you pick a June practice and an October qualifying, there is obviously a gap that something could happen. Somebody might have been injured or something that we need to be aware of. So that's the process of booking in. So I hope that helps. If you have questions, obviously you've got my number. I get hundreds and hundreds of calls weekly. So it's much better if you've got a question about the expedition to send us an email, because 2 days a week we do admin days and we'll make sure that we get back to you. But the process should be really, really simple. Remember, it's the young people's trip. They need to take responsibility for it. So I'll just quickly run through the steps. You're going to book on a practice expedition. I'll send you the paperwork and the consent form. You'll give the consent form to the school. As a parent, you don't need to do anything else apart from get them to the trip and bring them back. Then once the young people have enrolled, when it gets closer to the practice expedition, a month before, the school will send out a link, and I will also send out a link as well via Eventbrite for the young people to start working through the online training platform. It should take no more than 2 hours. So a month before, we don't want them to forget it. So that's why we only put it out a month before. They can have a little read through, watch all the videos, and then come on the practice expedition. They come on the practice expedition. I'll go through the online training platform with them again. They'll learn all their stuff. Then they go on to the qualifying expedition, and that's the process. And it's really, really simple. Some of you might think, oh, what about equipment? Because of siblings that have done it before, because it's the COVID edition and they're not camping, everything fits in a day sack. They'll have everything that they need. You'll get kit lists. Everything that you need to take will be in that letter. So when you get that letter, it'll be the letter, the consent form, everything that they need for that weekend, the links for the online training platform, everything will be there. So I hope that sort of clears a lot of the questions for everybody. It should be really, really fun. And we try and keep all the expeditions local. They're always in Redbridge area. So we've got them either in Epping or Hainault area. We do a Hainault Country Park. And because there's 6 choices now, some might be, the assessment might be at a different campsite to a different one, because obviously we had to book in some last minute additions for the school, but they're all around that area. So you know that you haven't got to travel to sort of Chelmsford where the school normally do their qualifying expeditions. Because of COVID, we've just decided this year to keep them all quite local. So I hope that answers all your questions. I can't wait to meet all the boys. If you have any problems, obviously send us an email, and I'll see you all on your practice weekend.